once again, I formally welcome to you in the second webinar, the second part of our webinar, which is focusing on the requirements of ISO 14001 standard and ISO 45000 standard, which are for the health and safety and environmental management system. Starting with my introduction, my name is Anas Khan, by qualification Masters in Chemical, and around 15 years of experience in the field of quality, safety, environment, and food safety. My core activities include, three kind of activities. I'm a trainer for different accreditation bodies to conduct their courses. Apart from the training activities, I'm also involved in the consulting activities. I'm involved in the development of management system for different companies, which includes the national and international level companies. Apart from consulting and training activities, I'm also a proof lead auditor for many of the standards, which including 9001, 45001, 14001, 22001, and certain corporate requirements. So in my background, I perform more than 500 audits nationally and internationally in Middle East and African countries to conduct the third-party audits, to conduct the corporate audits for different companies. Apart from these things, as I told you, I perform more than 5,000 hours of training for different international bodies for their requirements for quality, safety, environment. And in this webinar for today, we will try to give you a brief idea about what are 45,000 and 14,000 standards and what are their major requirements. So if any of you are going to start in your company to establish or implement any of the management system standard, they can have these basic requirements, understanding of these basic requirements, so they can apply these in a good manner. So let's start with ISO. First, I would like to ask you about ISO. Anyone having idea about the ISO?
خرا. لا هي خرا. هي خرا وكله قاعد يجمل في صلاح.
مشكلة. So because when I make unmute,
talk in English only, not Arabic.
Yeah, only English. We will be focusing only in English, right? So ISO is basically international organization for standardization. We will discuss in the next slide. Just to give you a brief idea about the benefits of health and safety management system. There are a number of benefits for the health and safety management system. Apart from the organization, these management systems are also very much needed for your professional growth, for your personal growth. Apart from organizations which are getting certified on these management system, which are the international world-class proven management system, you are also getting too much benefit for this, because definitely those organizations who want to focus on these management systems, they are hiring the people who are having the qualification on these management system. So we can see that apart from organization, we have many benefits like increased staff commitment, enhanced reputation. For example, if there is any accident in your company, so the other who are the support team, staff for a member of a victim, how do they feel? So the main challenge is about the staff commitment. What will be the level of motivation for the other people if there are number of accidents which are going on in the company on regular basis? What will be the impact on the media coverage? For example, nowadays, that media is very fast. So every time when you are having any accident or any, negative activity, the media is going to portray it in a very, to make it a very big challenge for you. So the reputation of the company is from hero to zero. It takes only few minutes to come from, from very high reputation to a very low reputation. Similarly, if you have health and safety management system and environmental management system, your legal requirements are going to meet, because these management system standards required you as a part of the clause that you have to comply with the requirements of your legal, which are specific for health and safety and environment. So your legal requirements implementation is automatically going to improve when you are having these management system available. Similarly, you have the insurance. Every company for their assets, every company for their people, they are having the insurance for you guys. So once your safety performance is going to be improved, once your environmental performance is going to be improved, so the premium which the companies are going to give to the insurance bodies, it is also going to be reduced. So when the insurance cost is going to be reduced, definitely this cost is going to have the contribution among the profitability of the company. So that's why the companies sometimes they are having the ISO management system for health and safety, for quality, for food safety from their own, because they want the improvement. And sometimes there is a requirement from the client, sometimes there is a requirement from the corporate that they have to comply with this requirement. Because when we are sitting here in the kingdom and we are focusing on ISO, which means that we are basically following those practices, those activities which are being followed by any of the world-class company. So to have the synchronization in the system, your clients, your corporates, they are forcing for the companies to follow the ISO management system. So what is the ISO management system, or ISO is basically the ISO is International Organization for Standardization, and it was established in 1947. The head office is in Switzerland, Geneva, and you can see that the important thing that ISO, it's an international platform which works like UNO, right? Which works like a UNO. So it's a global platform where the members are not the individuals, the members are countries, where the members are the experts of their fields. So whenever ISO is going to start or adopt any of the management system, they are going to make the technical committees. And this technical committees, most of the time it comprises of the sector experts, the consultants, the trainer, the industry experts of their field. So these technical committees are working together to form a standard, and they are presented this standard as a draft standard. And after that, this draft is going to be approved. Here comes the final version of the standard. So the standard which comes in our hands after the approval, we call it the final version. And different standards are coming in at different times. Right now you can see that since 1947 they have developed more than 22,000 standards. So which means that every time they are working on the standards. Apart from these standards, ISO is not only developing the management system standard, they are also developing the guidelines. They are also developing the requirements. They are also developing the technical specifications. So ISO, they have very broad activities. They have very broad working to perform. So the ISO standards are very much popular all over the world because they give you a synchronization within the system. So that's why the companies are adopting ISO management system. So when they are going to adopt the minimum requirement of the standard, they should also feel the confident that we are meeting the international standards, right? So in the end, I will give you 15 minutes, 20 minutes time. So you can ask the question now. You can just mark the questions, because when we are going to unmute you guys, there is a lot of noise in the background from different participants. So just mark your questions and we will discuss at the end, inshallah. The first thing which we need to understand, as we have seen that ISO 14001 management system, ISO 45001 management system. So what is system? The first thing which we need to understand is what is system. System is basically interconnection of a components to achieve given objective. So the all departments, all processes in the company, they will be working under a single policy and they will be meeting the same objectives. So if there is no only people who are involved in the system, but the whole process, the whole activities are involved in making the system. So there are different pillars of systems, and if one of the pillar, for example, If the equipment, the monitoring is not good, then we cannot have a good system. If the people are incompetent, we cannot have a good system. If the company is lacking in policies and procedures, then there will be a lacking in the system. Similarly, if there are no resource provision for the development and implementation of these effective system, so again the company is not going to be having a good system, which we can say that the system is in place and the things are moving. So after system, we should know what are the requirements for the management system. So as defined by ISO itself, the management system is the framework for defining an organization goals, policies, objectives, and procedures. Not only policies, goals, and objectives, procedures, but they should be establish, implement, maintain, and improve. When you say that we are having a management system, for example, for 14,000 or 45,000, it doesn't mean that your product is certified against this standard. No, which means that your system, and when your system is going to adopt the management system requirement, then it needs to have policies as required by the standard itself. It needs to have goals and objectives. It needs to have procedures and processes which are available. Uh, in our last slide, we have seen that for the system, if our pillars are available, we can say that we have the system. But if these pillars are going to be implemented, maintained, and improved, so then we can say that we have a management system. If the system exists, but it is not fully implemented, it is not being maintained, it is not being improved, then the system is does not say, we cannot say that the system is a management system or your management system exists in a good standing position. So management, the system is only our policies, people, processes, activities, they are going to make the system. So once our foundation for the system is available, then we need to implement, we need to maintain, and we need to improve. Always remember that all of the management system which we are going to implement in our companies, the main intention for these management systems are to give you the improvement. So if now in a company a system is not being implemented in a true sense, which means that the company has not taken the benefit of this management system, right? Sometimes we used to go in companies and we are going to listen these kind of comments from the top management that Mr. Anas, we are certified for last 10 years, 15 years, but we don't have any improvement in our system. So the answer is that the system intention is to give you the improvement, but it's again, it's up to us that how much improvement do we need, how much improvement do we want, because many times we have seen that some companies are adopting these management system just for the sake of certificate. They're adopting these management system just to meet the requirement of their vendor. They're adopting system just to fulfill the corporate requirement, but in true sense they are not adopting the system to make the improvement in their system. So if the improvement is not coming in your existing system, which means that you have not adopted the management system in a true sense, you have not adopted the positive things of the management system. What could be the continual improvement? We will discuss during the slides from where we can get the continual improvement. So what is ISO 45,000? As we discussed that ISO is an international body. It stands for International Organization for Standardization. And this 45,000 standard is for occupational health and safety. This 45 series is for the occupational health and safety. And this one is the requirement. When we say any standard, finish with the one, which means the requirements. When we say requirements, which means that which are necessary to implement. When we say requirements, which means that these are auditable. When we say requirements, which means that they will be implemented and they will make the continual improvement in your system. And this 2018, whenever we have the standard code and after the year, which means that it is the year of publication. It is the year of publication. So if we can see that ISO 45000 was published in March 2018. So that's why it is ISO 45001 2018 version. So this management system is mainly focusing on the requirements of health and safety. The main purpose of this management system is to improve the health and safety performance of the company in preventing injury and ill health. Before 45,000, or you can say before 10 years, the companies, they were only focusing on safety, physical safety, accident. The focus on ill health was very less, right? Because the people who are in HSC department, they were qualified with like engineering degrees or diploma degrees, and after that they have done the courses. So the focus on health was very less. So that's why, so that when the standard 45,000 was being developed, the consultants, the expert, the technical committee has decided that we need to focus also on the issues of ill health, because if you are working in a noisy area, you will not get injured. If you are working in you are involved in the manual handling, it might be possible that you will not get any fracture or any injury, but with the passage of time your health is going to be reduced. When you are working in a condition where you have a lot of moisture or lot of freezing, in this case there is no such safety issue, but the issues are like the health issues, which ISO 45000 now address, that we need to focus on these issues. So that's why ISO 45000 is not only going to give you the requirement for safety, but it is also going to give you the requirement for ill health, for the health, right? Which includes like ergonomic issues, which includes psychosocial issues, like psychological issues. These are all now the part of ISO 45001 standard. Then we have ISO 14001 standard. As we already discussed, this 14,000 series is for the environment. You will find sometime 14,022 standard. So don't get confused. This 14 series is dedicated for the environment. So any standard which you are going to read or you are going to have with 14,000, definitely it will be some standard for environment. Maybe some guidelines, maybe some standards, maybe some technical specification. But at the end, the 45,000 is basically our requirements for the health and safety, and 14,000 are the requirements for environment. And the last version of 14,000 was published in 2015. So, and still we are using the 2015 version. So that's why we are going to have the company certification for 2015 version. That's why when we are going to get the lead auditor certification or lead implementer certification, we are going to have against 2015 certificate, 2015 version. So 14,000 standard is not very new. It is old. It was started in basically 14 when ISO adopted it. They adopted in 1996. Before it was with the Europe, it was with the Britishers. They have their different guidelines for the implementation, but ISO adopted it in 1996. So after that, there are a couple of versions which have arrived, like 2005 version. There was after that now 2015. So one thing which you need to understand, that now all of the ISO standards, they are basically following the Annex SL. What is Annex SL? Annex SL is the higher level structure. This higher level structure is basically comprises of 10 clauses. So those standards which have been published after between 2015 and after 2015, they all are now following the higher level of structure, which means Annex XL, which gives you the guidelines that all of the standards will have the 10 clauses, or even the name of the clauses are almost same. So you can adopt all standards or as per your required standard very easily. The standards are very compatible to each other. The standards are very symmetric to each other. So that's why these all standards are now adopting our Annex XL, which is the higher level structure. Consistency with the standards, as I told you, that since now all standards are following the higher level structure, so they are very consistent with each other. We can see in the picture that many of the requirements for 45,000, 14,000, and 9,000 are same. When we say same, which means that as a part of standards, these are same, but as a part of implementation side, when we are going to apply the requirements, we need to focus on environment. In case of 14,000, we need to focus on business when we are going to apply 9,001 requirements, and we need to focus on human health and safety when we are going to apply 45,000. We have seen that many of the companies, they are adopting all these standards together, right? They are adopting all these three standards together, and that's why we call this kind of system as IMS, right? Have you seen the word IMS in the company? Have you seen the word HSC? Have you seen the word HSCQ? We are also, that's why HSCQ for health, safety, environment, and quality, like QHSC. So the another word which is being used for the integrated management system, we call it IMS. So IMS is basically a system which integrates the components into one coherent system. See, you can have 3 systems, you can have 2 systems, you can have 4 systems, but these are being consolidated, these are being combined in one single system. So there is no need for the common procedures to have a separate procedure. For example, your 9,000 policy require, you need to have the policy available. Your 14,000 standard require, you need to have environment policy. Your 45,000 standard require, you need to have health and safety policy available. So no need for 3 policies. You can combine the requirement of all these 3 standards into one standard, and we call it IMS policy. Similarly, IMS manual, similarly, every standard required now, you have to do the risk assessment, you have to do internal audits, you have to do management review, you need to define the processes. So the common clauses are combined together very easily, right? No need to produce too much documents, because all the time the main challenge for HSC department is from which they are having from the production department or the maintenance department, operations department, that due to this ISO management system, we are too much involved in the documentation. We get confused. Sometimes the departments are bringing the arguments like, we are getting confused that which of the procedure we have to follow for environment and which of the standard we have to follow for the safety. So now your life is going to be more easier, because even IMS was adopted by many companies before 2015, but different standards were having different clauses. So after 2015, the number of clauses are same. The titles of clauses are same. So it is more easier to combine these standards together. So we can have the name of one standard, and we can have the name of one standard, and this standard can be combined with the requirements of the same procedure can be combined with the requirements of other standard as well. So that's why we need to have the IMS system. But IMS, there is no single standard with the name of IMS. This is only an industrial terminology. It is not, you will not find this IMS terminology in any of the ISO management system. This is only an industrial terminology when we are going to combine 2 or more than 2 standards in one single component, when we are going to combine the requirements of these standards. So then we call it IMS, right? Then we have PDCA. This plan to check act or Deming cycle is very important to understand, because Deming cycle is very important in the establishment of a standard. This PDCA cycle is very important in the implementation of a standard. When these standards are being established, the clauses of these standards are being organized in such a way that they should follow the PDCA. This PDCA is not written anywhere in the clauses, but the methodology which has been adopted to organize these clauses is basically the PDCA. And similarly, we can adopt this PDCA in our industries. Even you can adopt this PDCA in your personal life. The PDCA cycle is very simple but very effective. Since more than 60 years, it is applicable. That PDCA, plan, do, check, act. whenever you are going to make any project or whenever you are going to adopt any of the activities, let's plan. It's a Japanese proverb that our plans do not fail. In fact, we fail to plan. So plans are very important thing. So that's why the companies, they are having PMP department. That's why the companies, they have the project planning or the planning department itself. Before 10 years ago, there was no such concept of planning department. All the planning was being done by the production people or the purchase people themselves. But now, due to the importance of this part, the companies are having planning department, and you will find many PMP qualified professionals in the market. So because they understand that what is the importance of plan. So once you are having a strong plan, you are not going to be fall. So then once your plan is ready, you are going to do activity, you are going to implement this plan. Whatever the necessary requirements are needed, you are going to apply. So when you are implementing this plan, you need to check, you need to monitor how my plan is going to be implemented, if I'm going according to my plan or no, if the activities, if the processes which are being adopted, they are meeting the requirement of our plan or no. So the plan, after the do, we need to go for the check part. And definitely when we will be checking the activities, when we will be having monitoring and measurement mechanism, we will find some errors, we will find some gray areas, we will find some weak areas which are needed for the improvement. So when we are going to take the actions for improvement, we call them act. So this is our cycle of PDCA on which the whole standard is adopted. So the initial clauses of standards are going to be fall in P, the mid clauses are going to be fall in D, the 9 clause is going to be fall in check, and the clause number 10 is going to be fall in act. So it is very easier now. If we understand the PDCA, we can also understand the clauses very easily. Now we will be covering these requirements of standards together, right? Because as I told you, due to Annex SL, the requirements or the clause names are almost same. Those things which are different, we can discuss them as a separate. So starting from clause number 0, 1, 2, 3, these are only the introduction clauses. These are only the background. Whenever you are going to purchase any book, you have the foreword available, you have the profile available for the writer. Then this writer says that I dedicated this book to my mother or to my father or anyone. So these are all the introduction. In the introduction, it is being mentioned that these ISO management systems are generic standards. You can apply these standards on any kind of industry. It's not only for the manufacturing, but also for the services companies, starting from a size of shop, right? Bakala, you can apply these standards up to the Aramco size, the multinational companies. Then we have the scope. The scope defines that where are these standards applicable in actual. When we are going to adopt these standards, we need to define the geographical boundaries. We need to define the our processes. So then there are normative references where the ISO team or the technical committee, they have defined that from where they have taken the references. It's not like that they have taken the references from here and there and put together in the ISO standard, but these are basically proven practices. How the standard is being developed? The standard is being developed by sharing the best practices, by sharing the good industrial practices, which you can adopt, right? So sharing the industrial practices, we are going to adopt, we are going to combine some good practices, we can develop our own standards. That's why you will find that the corporate companies, they have their own standard. They say we are higher than ISO. It's okay, you can be higher than ISO, because ISO is going to give you only the minimum requirements. So that's why the normative reference, the ISO has defined that from where these requirements which have been mentioned in the standard, these are being taken. Then we have clause number 3, which is terms and definitions. So the terms and definitions are basically those terminologies which are being used in the clauses. For example, there are some technical terminologies, for example, correction and corrective action, risk assessment, right, risk management. These are some of the terminologies. Some of you are already known these terminologies, who are already in the field, but those people who are new in this field, when they are going to study the standard, so they should understand these terminologies. So that's why this section or the clause number 3 is being available in the standard, which define the terms and definition. Now, starting with clause number 4, which is the main requirement. From here, the requirements are going to be started. From here, you need to implement in your company. From here, the certification body will come in your company and they will perform the audit. So the context of organization, clause number 4 is very easy. Clause number 4 is the new requirement. Before in the standard, this clause was not available. So it's a new requirement in the standard, and which gives you the idea that what is the purpose of your company, what do you want with the company, what are the needs and expectations of your parties, interested parties. The interested parties are further divided into internal interested parties and external interested parties. So in the clause number 4, when we are doing the planning, we should know about our company, what are our processes, what are our activities. Then we need to define the scope of health and safety management system and the environmental management system in our system. That for example, you have 4 sites, you have 4 branches available, but the management decide that we are not going to implement these standards on all 4 sites. We will start with 2 sites, and then later on we will be implementing these standards on the remaining 2 sites. So that's easy, no problem. You need to define this in your scope statement, that which of the activities, processes are included, and the second part, what are the geographical location which are being included in your management system. Then we need to define the management system and its processes, that how this management system is being applied on your processes, right? How your each process flow is going to meet the requirements of this management system. If you can see this blue font, these are the basically documents which are must, right? There are the terminologies in the standard which states the shall. Whenever you have the shall in the clause, that the company shall have the policy available, so which means it's a mandatory. Whenever in the clause you will have may, it means that optional. Whenever in the clauses you have can, which means that it is recommended, right? Whenever you have the note, which means the explanation. So it is not necessary that each requirement of standards are necessary to write. It is not a requirement from the standard at all. The standard now wants to make your life easier as much as possible. So that's why the standards are going to give you very few requirements with must or with shall. The other requirements are can, the other requirements are may, depending on the complexity of the organization, depending on the level of your competence competence of the people who are working in the organization will define itself, okay, that which of the processes are going to be implemented within the company. So you can see that in clause number 4, what we need to develop as a part of document is the list of interested parties. For example, as I told you, this can classify further into 2 interested parties, internal interested parties, external interested parties. Internal interested parties, for example, our employees, top management, our shareholders. External interested party, for example, our neighbor, our legal bodies, our customers, our vendors. These are all our external interested parties. What are their needs and expectations? We need to identify need. Need means necessity. What do they need from us? Definitely any of the company who is working, they are for the customers. They cannot run the business without the customer. So the standard itself says that what are the needs and expectations from your interested parties you need to define. And after that, you need to define that what are your actions. Definitely only knowing the needs and expectations is not enough. You need to define that what actions are being taken by the organization to meet the needs and expectations of their interested parties. Then it is a mandatory requirement to define the scope statement. For example, what are the activities and what are the geographical boundaries which are being coming under this standard, and the processes, as we discussed already in the clause, that how EMS or how HSC clauses are being implemented in your process flow, right? How you are following these requirements within your process. Again, those participants who have recently joined, I would say that we will give you a sufficient time at the end for the questioning and answer, because we don't have another seminar now, so we can have a good we could have a good time for the question and answer. So just note down your question and answer, and I will take inshallah all the question and answer. Then there is a clause number 5. Clause number 5 is basically leadership, which is a new clause. In the old version of OSHA's 18,001 standard or 14,001 standard 2005 version, this requirement was not available. Rather than this requirement, there was a requirement that you need to have a management representative available who will be responsible for the effective implementation of these management system. But now the standard has entirely changed. Now it says that leadership, that the top management is responsible for the effective development, establishment, and the implementation of standard. When we say top management, it means that definitely chairman, CEO, or the managing director of the company, or the general manager of the company, he is the responsible person. Why? Because they are the one who have the decision making power. They are the one who can have the resources. They are the one who can have the influence on the management. That miskin guy who is HSC manager or the quality manager, he cannot influence other managers, especially those who are senior than him in the age or in the designation wise. So the standard, that's why I say that now it is the responsibility of the top management, and they have to show the commitment. And when we are going to perform the audits, and now during the third party audits and the internal audits, I used to do the audit for the top management directly. I used to check what is the level of their commitment, how much they know about the management system of their own company. Do they know the policies of their company about the health and safety or environment and quality? Do they know that what are the resources they are going to approve? Do they know that what are the future plans for the company? What are their intentions for the improvement? So this leadership clause has been inserted as a new requirement in these versions, and this gives you a clear idea that the policy should be approved by the top management, and the roles and responsibilities should be defined. This can be defined as by using the organization chart. Policy can be approved. One of the ways is the signature, but not all the time you need the signature. One of the ways is signature. That's why whenever you go in the company, they have the policy signed by the chairman or the managing director of the company. Then there is a new clause which is in 45,000 standard with the workers' participation. Very important clause, workers' participation. Before this standard, before this in 45,000, there was always a question that why do we need to have the workers' participation available? Because in many countries, the worker unions, the worker representations are being banned, they are not allowed to discuss their issues. The management thinks, or these countries, they think that whatever we are going to do for our people, this is the best control. But in actual, we need to have the workers representation available. When we say representation, it doesn't mean that the ISO is promoting the unionization or the grouping within the organization. ISO is basically focusing you to get involved with the workers, because they are the one who are at the highest risk. They are the one who are at your frontline commanders. So you need to make them control. You need to take their what we call it, their participation. You need to consult with them. You need to listen them their issues. Otherwise, you cannot adopt a good health and safety management system. Then we have the requirement of planning. This clause number 6, 4, 5, 6 clauses are basically our planning clauses, where we need to do the risk assessment, where we need to identify the hazards, where we need to identify the environmental hazards, where we need to identify the health and safety hazards. And then the 6.2 clause require you to develop your objectives. Before, the name was objective and target, but then this new standard says objectives cannot be achieved without a good planning. So that's why the name has been changed, and now standard is more focusing on the planning. So otherwise, sometimes you will go in the company and you will find that they have the objective and the deadline, but how to achieve these objectives, this is a gray area. They don't know. They say that when the management will approve and they will give the resources, we will apply this objective. But this is not the case. Before development of this objective, you need to get the resources. You need to get the approval on the resources. You need to ask the management to approve. Then you can have these objectives available. If the resources are not being approved by the management, if the objectives are not being approved by the management, you cannot have a good objective and target. You maybe the management say, no, we don't have the resources, so you can skip this objective for this year. So this is the case. So that's why before development of objectives, the objective will come from the organization top management. The top management is going to define their strategic objectives, and from these strategic objectives we will have the cascade down. The objectives are cascade down to the down level and up to the level of workers, up to the level of supervisors. But it is not necessary that we are going to announce our strategic objectives to our workers, to our sweepers, to our janitorial staff. No, there is no need for such kind of information for them. All you need to is to adopt the main objective and make the portions or the parts of this objective and assign to the relevant department so they can work on these things. When they are, every department, when every supervisor, when every engineer and manager, they are working on their objectives, so definitely this objective is being contributed in the main objective of the company. For example, the company says that we will prevent the hand injuries. So hand injuries, if production department has a lot of hand injuries and they are going to work on it, so as a production department, it's a single objective that they have to focus on the hand injuries. But this objective is basically also contributing the strategic objective of the company. So that's why it is necessary that our objective should be cascade down. Then we have clause number 7, which is a support. All support functions which are needed for the management system, for the improvement and for the effective implementation of management system, these are in support. For example, what human support resources are needed, what financial resources are needed, what any other kind of resources are needed for the effective implementation of health and safety management and quality health and safety and environmental management system. What should be the level of competence for the people, and here it comes a requirement of training. When we say that our people should be trained on health and safety and environment, so the clause number 7 is going to be applicable. What is their level of awareness about the hazards to which they are associated? What are the level of their understanding about the aspects and impacts of for their processes and the activities? So we are going to have the information about these things, and those documented evidence should be available for the competence. And then what training program has company designed for the people? Most of the time the companies are doing at the end of year the year review, and then they are going to identify the needs for the next year. For that, this employee is very good but he is weak in this activity, so we will provide him the training next year so he can improve this weak area. And then the communication is like internal communication, external communication, but this communication should be relevant to the standard. If we are discussing 14,000 environmental, so environmental communication, for example, communication with legal bodies, communication with civil defense, communication with NGOs, communication, for example, with your neighbors, companies, or the unions, or the industrial organizations, or the bodies. These are all our external communication. So we need to maintain the documented evidence about all these communication record which are relevant to the standard. Then there is a clause called documented information. The standard defines that how does your document will be look like. For example, what will be the document code, which format you are going to adopt, how many sections your procedure will have. The document should be legible, the document should be retrievable, the document should be live. You know, there are two terminologies. We call it maintained document and retained document. So documented information, it contains the live procedure and the record. The procedures, the policies, the forms, you can change anytime until unless they become the record. But to change the record, it's a crime. We have seen sometimes during the audits that the companies, the clients are making the record. Whenever you are going to ask them to provide this checklist, this form, on the other room there is a supervisor sitting there, and they are making the fake record. So as an auditor, you will know that this record is fake, but you cannot speak in front of them directly. You have to prove by some other means, which you will be establishing with the passage of time when you will come in the auditing field itself. So the documented requirements for clause 4, 5, 6, 7 are documented and approved policy, organization chart, job descriptions, objectives and planning, mechanism for workers' participation and their feedback, aspect impact studies, risk assessment, competence and training record, and the record of external communication. So these are some of the shell requirement, you can say mandatory requirement, which are needed with these clauses. There might be possible that you in your organization you can have more than these documents available, but these are just for your idea that for those people who are going to start the implementation of these standards or the establishment of these management system. So what are the requirements? Do they need to start immediately? So that's why we have mentioned some of the document. Clause number 8 is about do, right? Operations. Operations are very necessary because this is the main clause which is focusing on the doing activities. We have planned all our activities, we have the resources available, we have developed the objectives and planning. So these are all available in the clause number 8, right? Operations. Operations for example, in clause number 6, you have identified the hazard. In clause number 6, you have identified the aspects and impacts. So what are the control measures which are being applied by the organization? This is mentioned in clause number 8, right? And when we are going to apply these control measures, we will be using the same methodology which is being mentioned in OSHA and IOSH and NIBOSH, that about the elimination, hierarchy of control, elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and then the PPEs. So this is how we need to think. For everything, PPE is not the control. So operations clause is a very important clause. Here we are going to discuss the planning, the controls which we have to apply on our planning part. The second part of this clause is the emergency preparedness as required by 14,000 standard and as required by ISO 45,000 standard. Both are required you to develop, to be prepared for the emergency, because when we are operating in a normal condition, there is always a chance that there could be an accident, there could be an emergency situation, right? So what we need to do is we need to define the procedure which can have the possible emergencies which are applicable to our scope of work. Then what are our actions for these emergencies, and who are the responsible persons during these emergencies? Have you seen sometimes in the department, you will find that there are the pictures, there are the names available, that this is our firefighting team, this is our spill management team, this is our evacuation team or the rescue team or the first aid team. So these are all basically the part of our emergency preparedness and response activity, where we are going to define that who is the responsible for what activity. And finally, this clause also requires that you need to conduct the drill. Only establishing the program and keeping in the form of procedure is not enough. You need to make the practice. You need to make sure that the people in the company, they are aware of emergency preparedness. They should know that what they have to do in case of emergency, when the siren is going to be established or when the emergency is going to be announced. They should know that what are the requirements they have to follow. They should know where is the evacuation route. They should know where is the emergency exit. They should know where is the assembly point. They should know where is the spill kit available for environmental point of view. They should know that where the hazardous waste they are going to discard, and how this spill kit is being used, and how they are going to manage the spill. So these are all the some of the examples from the environmental emergency preparedness and some of the requirements from health and safety management system, health and safety emergency preparedness. Another requirement which is new in this standard is about the management of change. So the standard says that whenever you are going to have any changes in the system, if it can affect the the health and safety or the environmental management system, you need to have the proper procedure available for this activity. You need to have the system available, that how you are going to apply these changes, because it might be possible due to your very small change, there could be a gas leakage which can cause hundreds of employees or the staff to be injured. A very small, changes in your existing system can cause a major accident. So that's why management of change is also a new requirement which we need to address in our health and safety management, and we need to apply this whenever there is any temporary or permanent changes are being carrying out. And the procurement was not involved before in 45,000 standard, because procurement, when we are going to focus on procurement, we think that ISO 9001 is going to discuss more about the procurement, but 45,000 health and safety management system also required to have a strong control on procurement, especially those people who are working in your organization or on behalf of your organization. You need to have a control on your contractor, your outsourcing processes, your people, your daily wages employee, your temporary employee, whoever is entering in your boundary now, it is your requirement, right? You have to make them secure. You have to make them safe. It is your responsibility now. So that's why in procurement, whenever you are going to purchase any of the equipment, your procurement department and health and safety department will have a meeting, and they will see that what could be the safety aspect whenever you are going to purchase the chemical or the machinery or the equipment or the plant. So you have to do the feasibility studies, that what will be the impact on health and safety, what will be the impact on environmental management system if we are going to adopt this equipment or this instrument or this chemical, etc. Right? Then we have clause number 9, which discuss about the performance valuation. We have now, as far as PDCA is concerned, we are at our C part. So then clause number 9, we are going to discuss that what are the overall environmental situation, what are the overall health and safety situation of the company, how we are going to monitor those equipment devices which are sensitive to environment, those equipment and devices which are sensitive to environment and health and safety. We need to monitor them, because if we are not going to monitor them, they can cause us accident. So we need to have the log sheets available, we need to have the checklist available, so we can note the overall performance of our environment and health and safety system. One of the way to do this activity of monitoring and measurement is to do the internal audit and the inspection. It's like you as a HSE officer, as an HSE engineer, you are going to make the inspection of your work site, your area time to time. So basically what you are going to do is you are monitoring that how my controls are being implemented. This clause 9 is the check part. As I told you, in check part, you are going to see that how our controls are being implemented. Are we going according to our plan or no? So then clause number 9 is internal audit. So the standard require you to perform the internal audit time to time, but this internal audit shall always be independent, which means that you cannot perform your own audit. So definitely some other department will be performing your audit and you will be performing the audit for another department. So it will be a cross-functional activity. Then we have the clause number 9.3, which is the management review. Management review is the requirement that after certain time period, for example, once in a year or twice in a year, we need to sit together with the top management and discuss the overall situation of our management system, right? How our management system is going to move. So this is, there are some agenda points which are being highlighted in the standard. So we need to discuss those agenda points, and it is not necessary to have a meeting together. You can have this on by email, on video conferencing, or any other way. You need to share the overall performance of your health and safety or environmental management system with them, and they will give you the decision making, the resource provision, the recommendations for improvement, and how these performance can be further improved. They are going to give you the guidelines about these things, because if the top management does not know about the management system situation, how the performance is going on, then they cannot give you the decision making, then they cannot provide you the resources. And then we have our clause 10, which is the improvement part. This is our A part. As far as PDCA is concerned, this is our A part. Improvement in terms of our identification of non-conformities, what are the gray areas you need to identify. It can come during the internal audit, it can come during the inspection, it can come by any means. So you need to identify the non-conformity, and then the organization shall take corrective actions. Before, in old standard version, there was a requirement for preventive action also, but now this requirement has been finished, because the standard is designed on risk-based thinking. So this risk-based thinking is basically the preventive approach. So there is no more preventive action clause available. So it says that you need to identify all the preventive actions before you are going to start the work at the time of planning phase. And once there is any control is going to be failed, now you have to take the corrective action. So now this corrective action is included. And then in clause number 10, also we have the incident reporting, incident investigation, how we are going to do the incident investigation, and the continual improvement. Continual improvement, clause number 10, very necessary, that this is the last clause of standard. Why this is the last clause of standard? That once we are going to apply all the clauses, then we can see the improvement. Otherwise, we cannot see the improvement. So it is very necessary that when you want to see the improvement in your system, as we discussed at the start of the session, that all the management systems, the intention for these management system is to have the continual improvement. So when you are going to apply these clauses in a true sense, then you can say that we have a continual improvement, and you have to provide the evidences for continual improvement, that how continual improvement you have applied in your existing system, and how these have been, these can be further improved, right? So these are about 10 clauses of the standards. And to learn these clauses, there are awareness level courses, there are implementation level courses, but the highest qualification for the individual to understand these management system auditing and the requirement is the lead auditor course, which is certified from CQI and IRCA, which is a UK based body and internationally globally accepted. They require you to go through with the training for minimum 35 to 40 hours of training. And then on the basis in this training, initially we are going to discuss what are the requirement of standards, how these clauses can be meaningful in our system, how these clauses can be applied in our management system. And then in the last 3 days, for example, if it's a 5-day course, we are going to discuss that how the auditing of this management system is being carried out. So this is a very good course, and it is going to give you a benefit on others, those who are also working in the same field, that you can have the chance to go for the third party audits, second party audits, or even you can perform the internal audit. And another thing which we have seen, that those companies who are having some lead auditors, qualified people, professionals available, they design the auditing system for their suppliers elsewhere, that how we are going to induct the supplier in our system and how we are going to do the audits of our supplier on regular basis, because some companies, they have more than 500, 1000 suppliers. So for the critical suppliers, they have to go through with certain audit criteria. For example, Aramco is doing the audits for their suppliers before inducting in the system and during the projects as well. So all major companies, they have the supplier. For example, I'm a proof auditor for Unilever, Kraft, Nestle Food, because to do the audit for their suppliers. I'm a proof auditor for the Abbott Laboratories to do the audit for their suppliers, to do the audit for their vendors. So they can see that how our vendors and suppliers are going to perform. So this course, inshallah, we are starting from 5th of June. We are going to start. And in this course, the exam is 2 hours. This course, which we are going to conduct, it will be it will not be a classroom based, but it will be a virtual live session where I will be the inshallah trainer for these courses, both of these courses. And we will be taking 4 hours classes, like 10 classes or 11 classes. And then the exam will be classroom, and exam will be conducted in all major cities of Saudi Arabia, which includes Riyadh, Jeddah, Khobar, and Yambo also. So these are very effective courses for any of the professionals who want to improve their system. And these courses can also help you in the immigration process. For example, those who are applying for UK, Canada, Australia, We have seen that even some of my friends, they've applied there. And since these courses are all internationally renowned and acceptable courses, so you will get additional points and you have these kind of professional qualification. And these qualifications of lead auditor can also be merged with your existing qualification of health, safety, and quality and environment. So it will be a very good combination to apply for any managerial position. These are some of our popular courses. You can see that starting from NIBOSH, we have IOSH, we have OSHA courses, we have OSHA Academy courses, we have electrical safety courses, lead auditor courses, first aid, food safety, energy management, PMP, ASP, CSP, which is the highest qualification in the field of health and safety. So there are more than